In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Oh my God! Santa! I'm gonna give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly, yellow, no good keister off my property before I pump your guts full of lead.
I'm terribly sorry, sir, but I'm afraid you're mistaken.
1, 2, 10. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live for Sunday, December 22nd, 2024. Thank you for tuning in, and of course, Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
In about a half hour, my friend Batman of Call-In Show fame will join to talk about the very thorough Wall Street Journal story this week about just how diminished Joe Biden actually was during his presidency and how many people covered it up. In other news tonight, Congress has saved you from the horrors of the coming government shutdown with yet another extension of status quo government spending. You're supposed to thank them. Coal in your stocking may have been preferable, of course. But hey, speaking of incapacitated government officials, Congresswoman Kay Granger has been living in a nursing home for months, a reporter recently discovered within just the last couple days. And her family and staff apparently didn't say anything while they still collected the money associated with being an active member of Congress. Over in Europe, a car with a mind of its own. You know, they had a run back in 2016, cars with minds of their own. They're back. A car with a mind of its own drives into a Christmas crowd in Germany yet again. That's the headline. But actually, it looks like this driver may have had the opposite idea of what you might assume. Who knows? Very bizarre case. We'll take a look at it. To close the show, of course, I have Hoax Hate, and Netflix does the meme with a new movie release. I'll catch up with your Superchats as well. Of course, $10 and up on the Sunday show, because I am a no-good, low-down money grabber. Our friend Knuckle Hunky Buck will join us to read the Super Chat once again. Speaking of, hey, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the show. You can do that for as little as $1 a month over on my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com or mattis.k. Listener support is what keeps my operation running. Of course, it is hugely appreciated. There are perks available for your support as well. mattchristiansenmedia.com/support, linked in the description. And we got to say hi to our featured listener-owned business for the evening as well. And that's our friends at Hero Soap Company. They've just launched the Freedom Box, of course, right in time for Christmas. I don't think yours will arrive if you order it right now, but there's always time to get patriotically clean. Is patriotically a word? Well, it is now. You'll get patriotically clean when you buy a Freedom Box from Hero Soap Company. It's got 4 exclusive scents to the Freedom Box. Inspired by the triumphs of American history, Boston Tea Party is clean, fresh, and calming. Overmountain is woodsy. Frontiers is masculine. And Liberty Cleanse is woodsy, sweet, and musky. You can pick up a Freedom Box or pick up my signature soaps, Timberline and Old West, or anything else from Hero Soap Company, including shampoo, conditioner, liquid body wash, cologne, and more. 10% off all of it using promo code MCListener at checkout. That's promo code MCListener for 10% off anything and everything from our friends at Hero Soap Company at herosoapcompany.com. Of course, check out mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals for all the information and other great offers from the rest of our friendly listener-owned businesses as well. Quick piece of housekeeping before we get into some news. As a reminder of the Christmas and New Year's show schedule, Sunday streams will continue uninterrupted. I will be back here on the 29th at the usual time, 9 Eastern. No Wednesday streams until January 8th. My short videos, those will be off this week. They'll be back a week and a half after that, January 4th, that first Saturday in January. As always, if you're looking for content, you can't find it, check out the homepage of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com. I'll always have the latest information posted there, or you can follow me on X at MLChristiansen. But into the news, one of the things I didn't notice in the election was Portland is moving on from longtime Mayor Ted Wheeler. And not because they've finally had enough of Ted Wheeler, but because he's actually termed out. Ted Wheeler has been mayor in Portland since 2016, and that's been a long run of insanity. You had all the Antifa stuff really starting early in the Trump era, but to varying degrees carrying throughout the last 8 years. You had that straight up Antifa murder on the street a few years ago. You had destruction of parts of the city during immigration protests against ICE in 2018. The mayor cheered those protesters on. They created a biohazard in the city. Their encampment was so disgusting, it was declared a biohazard. Then again, we had the Summer of Love after that, 2020. Further destruction of the city then, and there was all the COVID idiocy that you'd expect in such a city. The next mayor is Keith Wilson. I don't know much about him. He's a trucking company CEO, a Democrat, of course. He has pledged to end homelessness, just like Ted Wheeler did. Ted Wheeler pledged to end homelessness in Portland when he was elected. And I'm not just saying that. That's verifiably true. When Ted Wheeler was elected in 2016, he said, I'm going to have all of Portland's homeless people in shelters by 2019. Of course, 2019 came and passed a long time ago. The city's homeless population has tripled since Ted Wheeler was elected in 2016. Wheeler's term ends and Wilson's begins on January 1st, but before it does, of course, we will remember the many years of Ted Wheeler in Portland with a focus on his difficult relationship with all of these leftist protesters and rioters. Ted Wheeler, God bless him, he tried to love them, but they just never loved him back.
I stand with those who are opposed to the forced separation of children from their parents, families, in many cases who are fleeing oppression in other countries. I want to thank you for bringing national attention to this important issue. To all demonstrators, I urge you to keep up this effort.
Will you remember me?
Fuck Ted Wheeler! Fuck Ted Wheeler! Hey! Fuck Ted Wheeler! And fuck Ted Wheeler! No, he doesn't deserve this shit. He's a fucking fascist. Fuck him.
It stings. It's hard to breathe. I'm not afraid, but I am pissed off.
Don't let your light.
When you come to my house and you try to burn it down, or when you stand outside my daughter's room with a firearm, when you catcall her and tell her her father is a Nazi, when you chase her and her mother to school, when you slash my tires, those things start to get very personal.
What do you think your biggest achievement is? What are you most proud of?
We have new drugs on our streets, P2P meth, fentanyl. So those programs, those investments, those partnerships, they're paying off.
Ted is very proud of the drugs, apparently. His signature achievement, new drugs on the street. Of course, I edited the end of that segment. He didn't actually say he's very proud of the new drugs, but he almost said it. Check out the statement in context. That was part of an interview that Ted Wheeler did with a local TV news station just this week, discussing the end of his term. And he was asked what he's most proud of. And he said, I'm most proud of the results and how crime and drug use and homelessness are way down in this city, actually.
What do you think your biggest achievement is? What are you most proud of?
Well, I'm most proud of the results when it comes right down to it. Crime is way down in the city of Portland.
Because there were record homicides and gun violence during your terms, right?
Absolutely. It spiked up in the wake of COVID, in the wake of the national shutdown. We had new drugs on our streets, P2P meth, fentanyl. Obviously, there were livability issues, but yes, public safety issues became incredibly important. Remember when auto theft was on the front page of the newspapers and you were talking about it? It's down over 50%. Vandalism, that was another huge sore point for Portlanders. It's down over 40%. Gun violence, something that wreaks havoc on so many families in our community. It's down over 30% just in the last 2 years. So those programs, those investments, those partnerships, they're paying off.
Look at this man.
Okay, crime is down relative to what? He actually said it during his discussion there. Oh, crime is down relative to 2 years ago when Ted was also the mayor, and they set the murder record in the city of Portland. In fact, they out-murdered Seattle and San Francisco, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, you set the crime record during your term, at least for murder. And then it comes back down toward normal just a little bit, and you call that progress. Of course, we've seen Joe Biden do the same thing with inflation. Oh, inflation is down. Relative to what? 40-year highs. Hey, gas prices are down. Relative to what? The highest gas prices ever. Now crime rates in Portland as well. Relative to what? The records that Ted Wheeler himself set just a couple of years ago. In other words, not setting a new crime record every year is not progress, you know. That's not a great record, you know. But Ted's going to try to present it otherwise. Ted Wheeler is saying he looks forward to a life in the private sector. I doubt it, in the words of a wise man. Watch him run for governor or Congress in a few years. But last week, I discussed ABC reaching a settlement with Trump to pay up for George Stephanopoulos' defamatory claim that Donald Trump was found liable for, or in George's words, guilty of rape in the E. Jean Carroll case. That, of course, is not true. It was a defamation and sexual assault finding, according to the jury. Now, according to reality, it was none of those things. But there is no context in which Trump was found liable for rape. As I mentioned, it's pretty uncommon for public figures to win or even settle defamation cases like this because the standard they have to prove is so high. If you're a public figure like Trump is, you have to demonstrate actual malice, as in the person who defamed you, the person who lied about you, knew what they were saying was a lie and therefore damaged you, and said it anyway. They knew exactly what they were doing. It wasn't an accident. They didn't just have some kind of disregard for the truth. They knew it was a lie, and they said it anyway. Now, we already knew that George Stephanopoulos in that segment wasn't just misspeaking or making a mistake, because he repeated the same rape claim several times in just a few minutes talking to Nancy Mace. But now we have some idea about how the actual malice may have been present in that case or demonstrated, and why ABC might have been interested in settling it. Again, actual malice as in George Stephanopoulos knew exactly what he was doing, knew it wasn't true, but did it anyway. According to reporting in the New York Post this week, Stephanopoulos' executive producer repeatedly told him not to use the word rape before going on air that day. Now, the reporter in the New York Post here speculates that's probably because a legal team over at ABC knew that that's a word that's going to get them in trouble, so they told George Stephanopoulos, don't say that. That's unconfirmed as far as I see in the report, but it would stand to reason that someone in the legal department gave them that tip or directive. Don't say that word. New York Post confirmed that with a second source within ABC. Now, this is anonymous sources say, so take it with a grain of salt, perhaps, but it does explain why George Stephanopoulos and ABC, well, ABC on behalf of George Stephanopoulos, would be interested in settling the claim, because they apparently were, the standard of actual malice could have been demonstrated in this case. If Trump's legal team could go to court and say, yeah, they had an executive producer telling him before the show went live, do not say the word rape because Trump didn't rape. We'll get in trouble for that. And Stephanopoulos did it anyway. It's a pretty good demonstration of actual malice. Again, knowing and doing it anyway. New York Post also reports that George Stephanopoulos is furious George. He's humiliated. He's enraged. He's apoplectic. Probably so. I imagine he is. But imagine how much more so he would have been if he actually had to take the stand or otherwise testify under oath in this case. If he was given the Amber Heard treatment, how do you think George Stephanopoulos would have held up? Better to be apoplectic behind the scenes than apoplectic in public view. And I think his network probably saved him from that. Also, on Wednesday, discussed the case of Justin Trudeau, the precarious position he is in Canadian government. Justin Trudeau is losing all of his support, not just in public opinion, but within Parliament. And it as of Wednesday, it appeared Canadian Parliament was right on the cusp of potentially holding a vote of no confidence against him and potentially ousting him. But the only thing that was saving Trudeau for the moment was his alliance with the left-wing New Democratic Party, or NDP. Now, the NDP, as far as I understand, and we discussed with some Canadian or otherwise knowledgeable callers on Wednesday, the NDP is worried about, number one, if they call a vote of no confidence against Trudeau and there's an election to bring in a new parliament, they're worried about inadvertently or accidentally helping the Conservatives and therefore losing political power themselves, even though they're not thrilled with Trudeau. But the other variable that callers made me aware of is that the leader of the NDP, his name is Jagmeet Singh, and he is right on the cusp of a government pension. He's been in Parliament for almost long enough to earn this cushy government pension, and he doesn't want to prematurely call for this election, maybe lose his seat accidentally and lose out on that sweet government retirement. So that's another variable that had been working out in Trudeau's favor, at least for the moment. Well, everybody in Parliament goes away for Christmas and New Year's, and suddenly Jagmeet Singh, late in the week, posts a statement on X. He did this on Friday. Hey, actually, I changed my mind. I'm all in favor of a no confidence vote against Justin Trudeau, and we should bring this guy down. Now, of course, nothing much is going to happen with that, at least in all likelihood, in the immediate future here, because everybody left until the end of January. As I'll get to in a moment, there are some potential mechanisms to bring everybody back. It's probably not going to happen. But that's a big problem for Trudeau because he's lost the NDP, or the NDP leader, and the other party that was allied with him, I don't even know, the Quebec Party, the French People Party. Whatever they do. I don't know Canadian politics, but they were allied with Justin Trudeau as well, and they have also pulled their support. So Justin Trudeau is left without sufficient numbers to keep him as prime minister. Now it's a question of what the timing of this will be. Justin Trudeau has no path forward here. He's lost the support necessary to keep him in power. When will he lose power is the question. Now, for Jagmeet Singh, of course, he's being criticized, I think rightly so. Why'd you just bring this up now? Everybody skipped town in Ottawa to go home for Christmas or New Year's or whatever else. Why'd you just bring this up now? You've got the conservative, I don't know if he's conservative leader, but prominent in the Conservative Party, Pierre, guy whose name I can't pronounce that people have told me many times. He's ripping Jagmeet Singh, saying, could have used this a little while ago. Why did you wait? Oh, right, you've got that pension. But, okay. As I mentioned, most likely nothing's going to happen here for another month plus until the end of January when everybody comes back to Parliament in Canada. There is an option potentially for the Conservative Party. Leaders of the Conservative Party say they are going to ask Governor General Mary Simon, who is the personal representative of King Charles, who, yes, is Canada's head of state. They want to recall Parliament, bring them back to hold this no confidence vote before the end of the year. It is expected that Simon will reject such a move, but I guess they'll try it, at least to say they did. So I've read that Trudeau does potentially have some options to delay Parliament from taking this action, some procedural things he can do that might buy him a little bit more time. But it really does look like in the new year, the era of Justin Trudeau will finally be over.
Look at this fat.
So get a good look while you can, and we'll see how that goes in the new year. Or maybe earlier, if the Conservatives are successful in this move they're talking about. There was an absolutely insane scene at the home of Nick Fuentes this week. Apparently, Fuentes was recently doxxed And so he's had a visitor or two at his home, which got contentious previously. And this week could have very easily been deadly. Late on Wednesday night, John Lyons, who is a 24-year-old man from Westchester, Illinois. So this guy is from a Chicago suburb. John Lyons. He travels down to Mahomet, Illinois, 140 miles south. While down there, he commits a triple murder, allegedly. And then after that triple murder, he drives a couple hours back to Chicago to where Nick Fuentes lives in Berwyn. Around 11:30, this John Lyons rings Nick's doorbell and shouts, "Yo, Nick." So he clearly knows this is Nick's residence. Nick doesn't answer the door. Apparently he was streaming at the time. Police are called. The guy evades police at first, breaks into a different house, shoots 2 dogs, kills them, before taking shots at police, and police shoot him dead. So here is the footage off of Nick's Ring doorbell.
Yo, Nick!
Now, as you can see, the guy's got a crossbow and a handgun there, which is an awfully strange weapon choice. Again, clearly knows this is Nick's house. He's identifying him by name. As far as I've seen, no known personal connection between this guy and Nick Fuentes. One would assume that he went down to kill these 3 people for whatever reasons he had. He knows that his time as a free man is probably limited on account of the triple murder he just committed, and has something against Nick Fuentes and goes there to try to, I guess, go out with a bang, something like that. We don't really know. Fuentes is saying he's now going to have to move. He's going to have to get a new home since his address is out there and people are targeting him in person. He actually says this situation is not fair to his neighbors. He'll pay for security, he's saying, but it's not fair to his neighbors, families who live there. They shouldn't have to deal with this threat. Now, a few things to consider with this example. Number one, this is why doxing is not a game or just trolling or anything like that. It is creating circumstances that are absolutely unpredictable for not just the target of it, but the people in the neighborhood. And it's enabling psychopaths like this to take this sort of action. So if you think it would be wrong to go to someone's home and target them in this way yourself, yeah, of course you shouldn't participate in any facilitation of that either. And I know almost everybody in this audience agrees with that. Good. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir there. But the point here is that it really doesn't matter how much you hate someone or how much you disagree with them. It is a moral principle for its own sake, of course, no matter what you think of Nick Fuentes' opinions. And you can see the alternative in action. Listen to some local news coverage. This is from CBS Chicago. In this reporting, what's really important apparently is that Nick Fuentes has the wrong opinions. And we actually have no idea why this guy John Lyons was there or what he wanted to do or if he's really even connected to it at all.
On a post on the platform X, formerly known as Twitter, white nationalist and Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes posted a video where he claims he was the intended target in Berwyn. The timestamp of the Ring camera video is just before police say they were called. You see someone standing there with a gun and what looks like a crossbow. Police have not connected Lyons to the incident at Fuentes' home, but we do know they are trying to piece together the violent spree.
Yeah, we don't even know if that's the same guy who did the triple murder, actually. Could have been Nick's friend coming over for a crossbow party. Who knows? Even if their descriptors of his views are accurate and not just smearing, why is that relevant to the story? Even if he is a white nationalist and a Holocaust denier, what exactly does that change? Does that make the potential attack justified? If not, why are you making the distinction? Why are you lobbing the attack? Do we describe the party affiliations of people in other contexts of victimization? Republican voter John What's-His-Name almost got killed. Democrat donor Jill What's-Her-Face, she was shot today. The story apparently is that Nick's views are bad and anything else is unknown and unsubstantiated. How could we really know? They look at the story of a guy almost getting killed The reaction is, well, first and foremost, what are his views? What are his opinions? As though the crime or the value of his life depends on those views or opinions. These people want their enemies dead. And their enemies aren't just people who have harmed them in any sort of physical sense or in any way. They're just people who disagree with them. Not only do they not care if you die, in many cases they want you to die. Which means the other big takeaway from this story is if you haven't already, add a camera setup to your security system. Very possibly saved Nick's life in this situation. If he answers that door instead of looking at his camera system first, who knows what happens? Who knows what that guy planned to do? And they are fairly inexpensive and easy to install. I was late to the game myself, but I do run a similar system on my home, so I know who's coming to my door in the same way. Obviously, that doesn't stop anyone physically. If someone comes to your door and they intend on breaching your door physically, your cameras aren't going to do anything about that. But viewing who is at your door before you actually answer the door, or getting so close to the door that someone could harm you, potentially shooting through the door, whatever else they may do, that's a huge safety feature. Plus the value of the evidence that you can bring to law enforcement against the person later. Anyway, you can all, other than, potential people coming to your door with crossbows, you can all sleep well this Christmas and New Year's, of course, because the government has saved you, Congress has saved you from the horror of a potential government shutdown. They have averted the impending doom in Washington. When last we left the story on Wednesday, Speaker Mike Johnson had just announced that he had announced this bill. What he was bringing up for a vote was supposedly a continuing resolution, as in, just keep funding the government at status quo until Congress takes up the budget in the new year. Except this wasn't just a continuing resolution. It wasn't just continuing the status quo. It was another pile of nonsense full of new spending on God knows what, including a congressional pay raise. And so Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and Donald Trump, they all came out against it, and Congress scrambled trying to put something else together before the deadline over the weekend, which they did. And, without going into the details, you should take Chuck Schumer's double thumbs up here as an indicator that this deal is probably not particularly good. In fact, no Democrats voted against the bill at all, which is a pretty glaring red flag. But they did get the original 1,500 pages down to a comparatively slim 118 pages. So I guess less crap coming out of Washington is still better than not. But after the initial scrutiny on Tuesday and Wednesday for Speaker Johnson's proposal, Trump intervened. Trump wanted a bill stripped of all the extra nonsense, a continuing resolution, and a provision to do away with the debt limit, since the debt limit is going to have to be done next year. Now, Trump either wanted it extended or we're just going to not do the debt limit is to infinity and beyond. We're just not going to do it anymore. Now, the debt limit or the debt ceiling is the amount of money that the U.S. Treasury is authorized to borrow to pay our obligations. Raising it doesn't incur new spending. It's not authorizing new spending. What it's saying is, here's what you can borrow to pay for all the nonsense that we've already put on the tab. In recent years, of course, the debt limit has become a point of contention or a point of leverage in budget negotiations. If we did nothing about the debt ceiling and we hit it and were incapable of borrowing more money to pay our obligations, the U.S. could default on its debt, which has never happened in history. The Treasury has avoided it through various accounting tricks in the past. But if it did happen, it is expected that it would cause serious negative consequences for the economy, as though Washington, D.C. does anything otherwise. But Trump's proposal to get rid of, either extend or get rid of the debt ceiling, it did cause a fracture in Republican members in Congress. Some went along with Trump, many did not. All Democrats except two voted for this, voted against that bill, the Trump proposed one. 38 Republicans actually joined, almost all Democrats, in opposition to scrapping the debt ceiling. So that bill failed. That forced Johnson to come back with a third bill, and that's the one that just passed. And this third bill keeps government spending continuing through March. It adds 100, so it's just continuing spending at status quo plus $100 billion in disaster relief for hurricane-affected areas. So Florida, North Carolina, Hurricanes Helene and Milton. $10 billion for farm assistance. And Biden signed it yesterday, so the budget talks are over for Christmas and New Year's. Now, the question is, why does Trump want to get rid of, either extend or get rid of the debt ceiling? Now, presumably it's to avoid potential default. On pure principle, in my opinion, the reality is we're going to have to cut spending. Our country, of course, is on an unsustainable spending crash course. One way or another, you got to get this under control. Congress has to get serious about it. We can't be borrowing more money forever. So in the ideal world, whether it's through dealing with the debt ceiling, whether we want to get serious about giving ourselves a hard limit or we just start cutting spending in Congress, whatever you want to do, we got to get control of our spending problem. So why is Trump doing what appears to be an infinite extension of the government's ability to borrow? Well, if I were to think about this away from the principles here and think about the political calculation, I assume the calculation is that if we don't raise the debt ceiling now, Democrats potentially have the opportunity to weaponize it later under Trump's presidency, or maybe even push the country toward default if they want to and blame Trump for it. My guess is Trump is thinking, I need to take this potential weapon away from the Democrats. But the thing I don't like or even understand about that approach, even if maybe there's some practicality to it, Democrats are not going to have control of either house in Congress to do that. So they can try all the gamesmanship they want. The reality is they don't have the votes, assuming, this is a big asterisk, and maybe where Trump might have a point, assuming what? Republican solidarity, that Republicans can get their act together. That's a big assumption, though. So maybe Trump is wise to try to remove this weapon so there's zero chance of its use rather than a low chance of its use, even if it deviates from the pure principled approach, I suppose. I mean, if the answer is let's have an infinite debt ceiling and come back serious about cutting spending, okay, that's great. The debt ceiling doesn't necessarily matter as long as we're not borrowing infinitely. If we're authorized to borrow infinitely, that's a different question from are we actually borrowing infinitely? If they come back and get serious about our financial situation in the new year, then I guess this is kind of a moot point. But the other problem with what I'm talking about in the principled approach and trying to get this under control right now, the assumption of Republican solidarity, what's going to happen in the House for Mike Johnson? Will Mike Johnson even be the speaker? That is far from a certainty at this point, in part because of how all of this was handled. As it stands, Republicans will hold a 219 to 215 majority in the House at the start of the new Congress. That is actually a slimmer majority than what they had. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries says there's not going to be any Democrat votes to save Mike Johnson if there's any sort of Republican rebellion against him. Thomas Massey of Kentucky has already come out and said, I'm not supporting Mike Johnson for speaker. Who's he going to support? Who's the alternative? Unclear, but presumably there will be one. Many of the members, Republican members speaking with The Hill in this report, they were prior supporters of Mike Johnson, and they're not necessarily saying they're opposing him, but they're not saying they support him either. There are a few quoted in this story. And the big question for Mike Johnson is, what is Donald Trump going to do? Because Donald Trump has not formally endorsed Mike Johnson for speaker. And Trump didn't get what he wanted out of this bill that was just signed into law. Will Trump try to get someone else for speaker? If so, there is some risk in maybe stalling some of the political momentum he has coming out of the election. It'll be very interesting to see what Trump decides. I think that if Trump came out and endorsed Mike Johnson, obviously he has a much easier path than if Trump decided he's in opposition. So do we have another McCarthy-style fight to start the new year? We'll have to see. But for any loss that Trump may have taken, that's kind of the big the big left-wing talking point on this. Oh my God, Trump already took a loss on a bill out of Congress and he's not even president yet. Yeah, but isn't that kind of the point? He's not even president yet. Who is the president currently? We'll get to more on that in a moment. But yeah, as though this wasn't obvious, there's reporting to confirm it. Joe Biden was largely absent from the government funding negotiations this week. This, according to strategists and members of Congress, speaking with The Hill. They're saying, we didn't see him at all. He just disappeared. The man's a ghost. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about Biden's absence, and she said, well, not our problem. This is for Republicans in the House to fix. Well, if it's a problem to be fixed, maybe the executive who holds veto power over what he may support or not support, even if he doesn't have the power to tell them what to do, he might offer some good ideas for how to fix the problem, what he thinks are good ideas. Not what I think, of course, but what he thinks would fix the problem. And but he didn't do that. He just sat around. He was taking a nap the whole time, I assume, if he's not dead. Who knows? And as one strategist in this piece explains, what's weird is not just Joe Biden's absence, it's that Democrats want him gone. Democrats are glad he's gone. They don't want him participating. He's not showing up. They're not even asking him to show up. But every time we get close to a government shutdown like this, we get the hilarious fear-mongering from the media about how we're all about to burn in financial hell. Now, quite the opposite. We had a government shutdown for over a month in 2019 under Trump. It was the longest government shutdown in the history of the country, as far as I understand. What happened? Nothing. Did you die? No. Did your family die? No. People doing a lot of nothing in D.C. is a comparative win in many cases. There was another 3-day shutdown earlier in 2019. There was a 16-day shutdown under Obama in 2013. It didn't happen as often previously in American history. It's happened more often in the last couple decades. But yeah, when it's happened, mostly nothing happens. But here's NBC this week telling you all the terrible things that await if we enter shutdown hell. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer at the airport. And by the way, nothing happens with your mail. And, it might take a little longer if you call up the Social Security office. But don't worry, you'll still get your check. And if you're a federal employee, maybe you have to wait a little while until you get paid.
Let's get a closer look at the potential impact of a government shutdown. And it could be far-reaching for millions of American families in this final push to Christmas and beyond.
Yeah, Savannah Hoda, for people that were already trying to factor in extra time just because it's the holidays, well, now they might have to factor in extra time because of perhaps longer waits at the airports. If we rewind to the 2019 government shutdown that lasted about 35 days, well, TSA workers were deemed essential. They had to report to work, but they were going without pay. So some opted to just not show up at all, and it only takes a few air traffic controllers or a few screeners to not show up to really lead to major bottlenecks. So that could be a big issue. Now, another thing that people might be thinking about is, okay, what might happen to my packages with USPS, right? USPS does say that government shutdowns don't impact them, that they are funded by themselves. But I do want to point out that the deadlines for most standard shipping have already passed. So if it doesn't get there on time, you haven't put it in the mail. Not necessarily on the government. That might be on you.
What about Social Security checks? What about people who rely on Medicare, for example?
Yeah, well, really important questions there. Social Security Administration as well as Medicaid checks would continue to go out, so completely uninterrupted. However, the issue is that there are some workers at the Social Security Administration as well as the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare that might be furloughed, in which case if you're trying to call them to ask a question, maybe even to enroll, that could lead to longer wait times. So be aware of that if you're trying to contact them as well.
The people who will be really hurt are members of the military and government workers.
Yeah, because in some cases they would report to work and not get paid until this government shutdown gets lifted.
Stop being such a pussy.
The worst things that will happen is maybe TSA guys won't go to work, but they probably will, just like they did last time. The Postal Service will remain a crappy, slow alternative to UPS and FedEx. You can still go in there and stand in line. You'll still get your Social Security check, but if you have a question for a government employee on the phone, you might have to wait for a minute, as though that's new. And maybe some federal employees might have to wait for a little while to get paid. Now, I do feel sorry for any worker in any context who loses their job for things outside of their control, but I am very tired of federal employees getting this special sympathy. Oh no, they might be temporarily off the job. not that. How would you ever survive that? Congratulations on your pay that's twice the national average, and your cushy retirement, and your health care package must be so rough. And maybe you plan for potential shutdown as part of your overall household financial plan. Because the reality for any worker in the private sector is your job might get deleted at any time. Because your job is market accountable for the most part, if you're not working for the government. And so if we can have, another question here, if we can have thousands, maybe millions of federal workers not working, and most of the stuff that you need is still available to you, maybe you don't even notice much of a difference. That means we have way too many federal employees. I don't hope for these people to be off the job, of course. It means that our country would be in better position if those workers were productive, actually making things and providing services in the private sector where the market will actually determine if those things are useful or not. I don't want these people to suffer. The point is they're not suffering with their federal government jobs, and everybody would probably do better, potentially even them included, if they were actually working in a private sector setting. But I'm late to welcome my friend Batman to the show, so let me see if I can go find him. We'll talk more about the last 4 years of diminished Biden. Stand by. Hello, sir.
How are you?
I am well. Nice hat. I like that.
Yeah.
And don't you dare touch that AR behind you, or Raja Mohan will have his way with me.
Very well.
Well, of course, welcome to my friend Batman of call-in show fame. We're going to talk about the Biden Wall Street Journal story in a moment. But hey, first things first, per the hat, congratulations on the birth of your baby girl.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a joy. It really has. It's something else. It's not something that it's not something you can prepare for beforehand, but it's it feels like something that needs to be a part of everybody's life at some point.
Yeah, that's well put. I would certainly say it is a part of a complete life, and I don't say that with any lack of sympathy for people who maybe have all sorts of difficulties achieving that, whatever their circumstances may be. But I would say it is a great shame to voluntarily opt out of the opportunity if it is available to you. It is there's your life before and your life after, as I'm sure you have realized, and perhaps It is sleeping before and sleeping after. How's the sleep going?
Actually, I expected it to be worse than it is. It so happens that this kid knows how to sleep at night.
That's great. Consider yourself lucky.
I do. I expected it to be much more, I don't want to say unpleasant. That's not the...
You can say it. There are unpleasant parts. It's a big responsibility, but that's the joy.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Although presumably, now that we have this sort of comparatively angelic kid, presumably our next one will karmatically balance out and be a walking demon. But
I'm
we'll see.
glad to hear there already are plans for the next one. That's great.
Yeah.
But you missed out on the call-in show this week, so we're talking. Well, let's see if we can do a segment on something else to make up for it. And we're talking this morning about this story in the Wall Street Journal this week about how hey, Joe Biden was totally diminished for the last 4 years. We at the Wall Street Journal interviewed 50 people. And it turns out he wasn't doing much of any work at all. And it turns out all these people were shielding him from his responsibilities, sometimes even the truth. So before I get some of your thoughts on this, allow me to just walk through some of the segments in this very lengthy, very detailed Wall Street Journal piece. Let's have a look here. Quote, senior advisors were often put into roles that some administration officials and lawmakers thought Biden should occupy, with people such as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Senior Counselor Steve Ricchetti, and National Economic Council head Lyle Brainerd, and her predecessor frequently in the position of being go-betweens for the president. So in other words, other people were the president when the situation demanded, which was often. We scroll down a little bit more. Press aides. Or did I go too far? Here it is. Press aides who compiled packages of news clips for Biden were told by senior staff to exclude negative stories about the president. The president wasn't talking to his own pollsters, as surveys showed him trailing in the 2024 race. You heard him saying all the time, "Oh, man, what do you mean? We're totally winning."
Come on, man.
They protected him from the truth. They gave him a curated reality. That is some next level stuff. A few more points here. And I won't read all of these because it's very lengthy. I'll be reading this story forever if I do. But high-ranking, so they go into his cabinet and his staffers, and they talk about they had to strategize because he couldn't be relied upon for long meetings, and they had to make sure that people waited until the afternoon or waited until short blocks of time. In other words, they knew about it the whole time. In cases cited in the story going back to 2021, they knew about it the whole time. It wasn't a new development. Also, we got our guys blown up because of this nonsense. They detail a case of Washington State Congressman, who was trying to get a meeting with Biden before the Afghanistan withdrawal and said, hey, this looks like a terrible idea. Could we please talk about it? Biden was not available. He had to take a nap. You got the top Democrat on the House Intel Committee trying to talk with Biden about the importance of FISA reauthorization. Now, I guess it's better if they don't talk about that one maybe, but it ended up happening regardless. Likewise, he's like, hey, man, I was trying to get a meeting with Biden. Couldn't. So you have congressional Democrat leaders knowing this was happening and saying nothing. And then you scroll down in the story. The cabinet was hardly meeting at all. They met 9 times over 4 years, which is drastically lower than prior presidents. Trump at 25, Obama at 19. His cabinet knew about this the whole time, said nothing. In fact, outright denied claims about his inability to perform the job. And ultimately, what's unsaid in this piece is also obviously true. The media knew about this and said nothing, or lectured all of us for talking about it for 4 years. I mean, just think of all the examples. Although the videos you're talking about, those are cheap fakes. Those are edited, deceptive videos. We had Robert Hur, the special counsel looking at Joe Biden for his classified documents case, saying, I talked to Biden. He's not mentally present. In fact, we shouldn't prosecute him because no jury would convict him because they'll sympathize with his lack of mental presence. He was smeared as a political operative. We'll hear from CNN reporter Chris Cillizza, or Chiliza. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but hear from him in a moment. He's saying, I all but took my orders. I did what I was told to do. Jen Psaki and Karine Jean-Pierre said he was fine, so I assumed he was fine. But I know you have some thoughts about this one as well, Batman. So what do you got?
Well, I do, and in particular, I find it interesting that they've been that they note in particular the propensity that they have towards sort of curating Biden's reality, because that's actually a trend that we see going back a pretty lengthy way when it comes to the presidency and how staffers operate and stuff like that. So going back into the, before Biden's presidency, we had Trump, of course, who was being lied to by the people around him and had his sort of world curated by people who shouldn't have had that kind of power. And even before that, we had the Obama administration. There's a book called it's called The Amateur: Barack Obama in the White House. And as you can imagine, given the title, that's not exactly an unbiased source. But the author of that book, Edward Klein, had a lot of contacts with the people in the Obama White House due to having lengthy relationships and stuff like that with the people that were in power. And even Obama's view of the world was being curated by people. I mean, he had this sort of cabal led by Valerie Jarrett around him that would sort of protect him from criticism and would only allow in people that were going to blush and suck Obama's toes, etc. So
thank you for keeping it clean.
Yeah. So this is something that they're very practiced at. For over a decade, they've been doing this stuff now.
That's interesting, because I don't know the history of this practice. To me, it seemed maybe unusual, but maybe not, if what you're saying is correct. And I wonder what the thinking on that is. Like, why do you want, even if you're an ally of the president, why do you want the president to be, number one, fragile, like incapable of addressing criticism of himself, when that's very important, since he has the most highly scrutinized job potentially in the world? And then number two, potentially shielded from the truth. Why is it beneficial for him to be weak, but why is it beneficial for him to be disconnected from the truth of the world out there? That I don't understand.
I think it's largely just because of what the president is capable of, and they're trying to guide his actions by influencing his worldview. Right. And they've had different reasons for it with each presidency that we've had for the last three. Right. With Trump, it was because they wanted to screw him over and make him look bad. With Biden, it was because he thinks it's Tuesday when it's Thursday, and it's ice cream o'clock. And with Obama, it was, I think, because he was fragile, and because he generally was this sort of soft intellectual that you don't really necessarily want as a commander in chief. And they had to kowtow to his sensibilities if he was going to, I don't want to say be functional, because he never really was, but you know what I mean.
You know what else I find fascinating about this story? This operation, of course, was legitimately a conspiracy in the definitional sense. A group of people conspired to cover up the truth. And the counterpoint, whenever conspiracy theories are floated, the counterpoint often is, well, come on, how many people would have to be in on it? How could that be true? It would take so many people to cover that up, not to say the truth, to be active participants in it. There's just no way. It's too big in scale. But how many people participated in this conspiracy to varying levels, potentially thousands, maybe millions, depending on how you count it? You got Biden's closest circle, of course, detailed in this story. You've got really the entire Democratic Party extended through, say, members of Congress, but party leadership as well. Extended to media allies who didn't talk about it, but are now talking about it. And it extends all the way to the average Democrat voter. Now, I know they're kind of like duped participants in the conspiracy. Maybe they're not actively upholding it, or maybe some of them are. But these are people who would have happily voted for Joe Biden if he was still on the ballot, despite all of these obvious shortcomings. This is a fascinating example of, look how many people were in on the conspiracy, and look how strong it held up.
I think how many people need to be involved in order to make this work is maybe a little bit too simple to be applied to this particular situation, because you have a lot of people that are involved in this that are at the very top, and anybody who defies them loses their job, gets defamed by everything, every media apparatus that exists, essentially. Then you also do things like piss off the intel agencies, which, tends to have a That tends to be a position with a short life expectancy.
They hire weird kids to come shoot your ear if you do that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I have a, in addition to the fact that I think that for a lot of these people, shying away from the truth was in their sort of financial and political and professional interests. I think that they also probably feared the ramifications of speaking up about it too loudly. And you can see that in the fact that the moment that James O'Keefe gets anywhere near one of these idiots, he makes them squeal like pigs. Right. So it's not that they're totally being silent about it. It's that there's this sort of like universally agreed upon this sort of silent agreement amongst all these people to just sort of operate like everything's normal. And given that we've seen sort of these bizarre standalone complexes going on with strange Democrat splinter cells in cities going nuts and burning crap, I don't really see that as all that difficult to believe.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. This came out the same week as this Kay Granger news too, which I'll get into a little bit later in the show. And it's a different political party, but a very similar dynamic, it looks like, where, to your point, it's not just political loyalty, I assume. There's a lot of like, well, my job depends on it. Well, I need to get paid, so I'll just kind of pretend like she's a real congressman, even though she's living in a nursing home and has been for several months now. It is very interesting how these things get upheld. And the last thing I wanted to talk about on this topic was the commentary from former CNN personality Chris Cillizza. And I didn't realize he's been away from CNN for a couple of years, but he has been. And he's got his own personal YouTube show, podcast. And he's outright saying this week, I covered for Biden. I'm sorry about that, but let me explain why.
As a reporter, I have a confession to make. I should have pushed harder earlier for more information about Joe Biden's mental and physical well-being and any signs of decline. During that time, the early part when I was at CNN, 2020 to 2022, Republicans would regularly ping me and say, why don't you ask more questions to Joe Biden and how he's doing? What I would say is, well, there's no obvious evidence that he's declining, and the people around Joe Biden were absolutely adamant that suggesting anything, asking the question about whether he was in some physical, mental, or both decline was offensive. How could you? And I think that impacted me. I didn't really push on it, if I'm being honest. Once I left CNN and once it became a little bit more clear to me about Biden's age, I think I did write pretty regularly and talk pretty regularly about how I wasn't sure that this guy was up to it. And then obviously after the June 27th debate, everybody, including me, was writing and talking about it.
Look at this fat.
I didn't really push on it, says the guy whose job it was to push on it. Now, I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I'll invite you to offer yours first if you have any.
So the first giant red flag for me in indicating that this guy is, a stereotypical media lying sack shit is there was no evidence that he was. What are you talking about? No evidence. Let's not even talk about the campaign and how poorly that he did there. Right. I've got this list. Okay. So March 2021, Biden falls up the Air Force One stairs. June 2021, Biden calls the Royal Air Force. Yes. In the best metaphor for his career for the last 50 years.
He fell up the stairs for years. It was, yeah. Anyway.
It's clear we live in the Matrix and the people who are programming it are just having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So June 2021, Biden calls the Royal Air Force the RFA. November 2021, Biden falls asleep during some of the first speakers at COP26. June 2022, Biden falls off a bicycle. October 2022, Biden calls Rishi Sunak of the UK Rashi Sanook.
Hey, that one's hard. I can't do that one either. So,
okay, fair enough. May 2023, Biden stumbles down the steps of a Japanese shrine as G7 leaders are waiting on him. June 2023, Biden falls over on stage handing out diplomas at Air Force Academy. September 2023, Biden tells story about white supremacist rally twice within minutes at a gun control event. September 2023, Biden walks into Brazilian flag on stage, then walks off snubbing the Brazilian president of a handshake. September 2023, Biden calls Congressional Hispanic Caucus the Black Caucus because he couldn't see more than 4 meters in front of his face, I guess.
Come on, man.
September 2023, Biden claims he has been to every mass shooting. He hadn't. March 2024, Biden relays story.
That's just he was hanging out with Tim Walz.
I've become friends with school shooters.
yeah, that's right. Let me see, where was I here? March 2024, Biden relays story about train journey over the Francis Scott Key Bridge that has no tracks. June 2024, the entire Trump-Biden debate. Like, if it wasn't obvious to
he
you
did
then,
mention that, though. In fair, he said, "Oh, that, once I saw the debate, that was clear." Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'll buy that for $1. Yeah, no, this guy's a lying sack of shit. This list goes on, but I think the point has been made.
4 days ago, 5 days ago.
I think the point has been made. There's so much evidence. We're drowning in evidence. We will die, with this evidence filling our lungs. It's if he legitimately thinks that we're going to buy that he just didn't see the evidence, then one, he's bad at his job. But I mean, he's already bad at his job because he was towing the party line and he had failed in his journalistic.
And that's the thing, like, you're allowed to miss things. You're allowed to be wrong. God knows I have many times and will continue to be in the future, but it's the way he wrote about it too. You look back at his work at CNN, it's not just like this journalistic commitment to skepticism and a demand for evidence. Because as you mentioned, the evidence is as simple as looking on the internet ever. But if you're not convinced, okay, you have a very high threshold for acceptable evidence. But this last paragraph, his takeaway point from when he was talking about this in 2021, writing for CNN, the point, this is the attacks on Biden's mental faculties, his ability to do the job, all that stuff. This is the sort of gross, lowest common denominator politics that drive people away from public life. If Republicans have some sort of proof that Biden is declining, they should bring it forward. If they don't, they should stop doing what they're doing immediately. So it's not just like, hey, man, I'm not convinced. It's like, you're bad. You're a bad guy for talking about it. He was doing this moralizing,
That's how they operate. It's how they've always operated, right? I mean, if he wasn't trying to do this moralizing that you point out, then he probably would have been blackballed by the people that he worked for, right?
And it seems like he implies that because part of his defense is, well, hey, I did look at it eventually. Right. When did you, according to your own description? Well, when other people started talking about it. And when the debate happened and everyone was talking about it, and now I'm talking about it, but what are you saying? Like, even in his description there, well, you got to understand that all of Biden's people were saying, like, no way, and actually don't talk about that. In every context, he's saying, I take my cues from someone else and offer my opinions and analysis based on what they're telling me. There's never been a time of original thought in this guy's life, apparently. He took cues formerly from the administration. Now he takes cues from other bosses in the media environment who tell him what to think. That's what he's saying as a defense for himself. And it's not a good one. It's not very convincing.
Yeah. This is the kind of person that they want in journalism these days, right? People who are, less reporters than they are propagandists, people who can be bullied or can otherwise be bribed or coerced into saying the correct things, because real reporters get targeted. Look at Andy Ngo. Look at what was happening to Tim Pool back when he was on the ground.
Jonathan Cho in Seattle, the guy who brought us LaDonna.
That's right.
Yeah.
So real journalists. Yeah, real journalists these days. They are targeted by the people that they're trying to do reporting on, by the establishment, by whatever. And in these giant corporations that are captured by, what you might call the deep state, you're not going to get real journalists. They can't be real journalists and work at these places. It's what's the word? Anathema to each other.
He's doing real journalism on YouTube now, like we are. So congratulations to him on the promotion. All right, man, I got to move on to Super Chat. But before I let you go, of course, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you filthy
And you as
animal.
well.
And last time you were on the show, I forgot to ask you if there's anything you'd like to promote. I don't know if you're into social media or whatever places people could find you if they'd like to.
Not really.
Wise man.
Not. Yeah.
All right. All the best to you and your family. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And I'll see you in the new year. Okay.
All right. Take care.
All right. And just see yourself out of the Zoom call too. I forgot to tell you.
Will do.
But thank you, man.
Of course.
I'll be right back.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Knuckles.
And now it's time for Super Chats with Knuckle Hunky Buck.
I'm a knucklehead at times.
Nice Santa hat. Thank you for your commitment to the bit.
Thank you, sir. Of course.
Well, Merry Christmas, first and foremost.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal, and Merry Christmas, all you filthy animals out there.
Let's get into some chats, shall we? Hey, Lord Stockingham Puppeton III. Are you guys acquaintances? Do you guys know each other? Good friends?
I don't know. He just seems to be a fan of mine for some reason.
Like Tim Walz and School Shooters, you get along really well. I'm so full of the Christmas spirit right now. I feel like I'm going to burst at the seams. Well, Merry Christmas, Lord Stockington. All right, what do we? A Great White I got next. You ready for that?
All right. Great white shark emoji. Merry Christmas. Did you hear about that basketball American that sprayed insect killer on the food at Walmart in Mesa, Arizona? A real hate crime.
I did hear about it, and I haven't looked at it closely. Merry Christmas, by the way. Yes, it looked like a TikTok prank. My TikTok prank is spraying Raid on the produce at the store. That's all I know about it. Hilarious.
You know, I think it's gotten to the point with some of this stuff that it needs to be just like they need to look the other way if somebody catches somebody doing something like this in public and just beats the hell out of them. It needs to be acceptable to beat the hell out of somebody. It's not against the law. Oh, fuck you. Endangering the public.
You know, this is like, remember the people who were licking the ice cream a few years ago?
I don't specifically remember that, but I mean, I know like since the popularity of like TikTok and video stuff like this, like it's become much more common for people to do just disgusting things in public and film them.
Now, I've spent a lot of time in recent weeks condemning the actions of Luigi. I think he was an immoral actor, but if Luigi could have harnessed his energy to go after the ice cream lickers, I think it would have been a better use of his time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
so,
well done, John. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the insurance CEO, my heart's not too broken over that.
Yeah, you already cucked for Luigi before. You're not going to do it again. Long Tongue John says, looks like I'm going to be sick over Christmas. That sucks. You know, I am getting a little bit sick myself. I'm trying to hang on. But Godspeed to you and Merry Christmas, sir. I hope you and Daddy Nuck have a better time or a better Christmas than me. Daddy Nuck, do you embrace that nickname?
It's a nickname of a nickname. So you can call me whatever the hell you want. I'm cool with it. I like it.
We'll see how far that permission extends.
All right. And next up we have, and now I do have to push back on you. I spoke to Daniel Jagger in the live chat after you had corrected me and said
so I was wrong.
Jagger. I would be kind of a prick to come on your podcast and say I told you so, but let's be honest, I can be kind of a prick sometimes. Told you so.
You are fake news.
Very fake.
Well, in fairness, I was informed of this pronunciation by a former member of the show who appears to have made a few mistakes at times. So I'm going to avoid accountability here at all costs. All right.
Well, I put in that extra effort and talked to him in the live chat
I appreciate
to verify it is Daniel Jagger. And Matt, did you catch that rapid onset political enlightenment? I'm sorry. That rapid onset political enlightenment article in Tablet Mag. Very interesting to say the least.
I did see that you emailed it to me. I haven't read it yet, so perhaps I will with a little bit of time over the Christmas week this week. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name and advising others to do the same. I will not do that again. Merry Christmas, sir. Purpose of the Ages. How is the revenue on your channel lately? I'm not so Jay. Thank you for getting past Raju Mohan that I care about a YouTube channel. I've been quietly listening for years, and I'm curious about the culture shift of supporting godly values. I don't like to get into deep levels of business details in that way. All I will say is that my goal in life is to be able to produce this material and take care of my family. And I feel confident that I have a future producing this material and taking care of my family. And that's because we have so many wonderful people in the audience like you, Purpose of the Ages. So Merry Christmas to you.
We love you. You're very special.
And I appreciate your concern or your inquiry and your well-wishing.
Well, not only that, but also his support tonight. Looks like the revenue on his channel is significantly boosted thanks to Purpose of the Ages. The next chat from him says, I plan to buy $100 in Super Chats today. I could do it all at once, but why? 70 more characters for another $90? That's almost $1 per letter. I'd like to buy your episode for $100, sir.
I am not going to be niggardly.
Well, thank you for your support for the show. And I guess you're just, you're playing within the rules. I can't fault you for that. Thank you. And we look forward to reading your chats.
And it's a lot cheaper than giving your money to Pat Sajak. You just get a single vowel for that. So
I think he's a good man though. He's not on the show anymore, right? Who'd they go to? Seacrest or someone? There's a new host of that show.
I'm just going to assume it's Drew Carey. It's always Drew Carey, right?
I don't even know. What does he host now? He's Price is Right, right?
Yeah, I think he's Price is Right.
Let's see. Okay. Long Dong John says, but ultimately the worst part of the Duke lacrosse case, after the bitch getting away with it, was Nifong only spending a day in jail. He was the district attorney for his role in the case. No wonder prosecutors like Bragg and Fanny are so emboldened. I mean, that guy was withholding evidence, outright lying in public. I agree that looking back, there should have been much more serious consequences. That case was well beyond like, whoopsie. That was acting with malice against those Duke lacrosse guys and knowing information, knowing about evidence, lying about it in public, withholding it from the defense. This was malpractice to a criminal extent, in my opinion. I'm just talking as a layman, not necessarily citing the statutes he violated, but what he did to those guys was abusive in a criminal sense. Absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, that was the one where some gal made some accusations against like the whole lacrosse team.
She said that they raped her, and it was obviously a lie the whole time, and she just came out after 20 years last week or the week before and said, because she's in jail for murdering her boyfriend after that. So, it's been a rough go for that lady. She was a stripper that said she got raped, and then she murdered her boyfriend, and she tried to murder her other boyfriend too. And she did a podcast interview from prison and said, yeah, it was wrong of me to lie about those guys. She's coming clean after all this time.
Yeah, whoopsie daisy, right? Okay.
Yes.
And we've got yet another one from Purpose of the Ages. My How Time Flies. I started watching your show when I was young and still had personal time to jog and exercise while listening to podcasts in the background. Now I'm a man with a family.
Well, that's great, man. It is amazing how time, obviously, my situation's a lot different since the start of the show too. And likewise, like everything was kind of, it's not that it's not fun in games anymore. It is fun in games. I love doing it because it's fun. And the reason I intend to continue doing it is because it's fun. But once you're married, you got kids, there are, everything is inherently more serious. Everything is inherently, you consider everything in light of that, of those people who depend on you in that way. So congratulations to you, Purpose of the Ages. Tortuga says, just want to say Merry Christmas to you and all the filthy animals in the chat. You as well.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Tortuga.
Let's stop there. Do you have Rumble ready?
I do.
Okay, let's
I've
move
got
over to
the-
Rumble, and I'll come back to the rest of you guys on YouTube and Tippy, and at the end of the show. Appreciate you guys.
I'm imagining you have the sounder ready for LBOT PN.
Dude, I'm so fast with this thing, it's always ready.
I am not going to be niggardly.
Oh, that was the cue? I was supposed to go. Lbot, okay. Thank you, Lbot.
No note as usual.
Yeah.
And the Hillbilly Deluxe, I'll read the second one because it was a double send. In the second one, he says, dang, lost some of the message. Moving out of the Chicagoland area, and Berwyn in particular, may be inconvenient, but the resulting peace of mind is immeasurable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a close follower of Nick, and so I'm assuming he has his reasons. I guess I'm surprised to learn that he lives in suburban Chicago. I didn't know that prior to this. It seems like, I don't know, I assume that's where his family lives, or he has his reasons to be there. But it seems like an odd choice, if I'm being frank. But
yeah, and actually, if the potential shooter actually called him out by name, right?
yeah, yo Nick, he said while he was ringing the doorbell or knocking on the door, whatever he was doing.
Otherwise, in the Chicago area, I wouldn't even assume that it was specifically intended for him.
Yeah, although what other connection did he have to Berwyn? That guy doesn't have one, as far as we know, right? Like, what was he doing there, if not to go after Nick Fuentes?
Well, and if he called him out by name, that's obviously what it was. Just saying, Chicago isn't exactly known for being a peaceful community.
That's true. They do have neighborhood shootings. It's practically baseball there. It's a local pastime.
And what was it the news lady saying? What looks like a crossbow? I can only think of one thing that looks like a crossbow, and that's a crossbow.
It's a pretty distinct item. You're right. Yeah. Let's see. I've got Yakko. Did Yakko show up for you out of curiosity? I want to make sure that we're seeing the same thing.
No, I just have the two from Hillbilly Deluxe and then likes to watch.
Strange. All right. More technical issues to resolve. I'll have to figure this out because our feeds are differing, but all right. Yakko says, because the military didn't look incompetent enough under Biden, the Navy reportedly shot down one of its own planes. I saw this chat earlier, and I didn't look deeply into this story, but it is apparently true. I don't know if you saw this. Yes, it is reported this weekend that we had, a U.S. Navy guided missile cruiser mistakenly shot down an American fighter jet over the Red Sea in an apparent friendly fire incident. The Navy Central Command confirmed that both pilots ejected safely. So at least it wasn't a fatal incident. But why are our boats shooting down our own aircraft with missiles? Is what this sounds like, unless I'm misunderstanding it.
Yeah, we can shoot down our own fighter jet over in the Red Sea, but we can't shoot down some drones over the East Coast.
Yeah, what's going on with the drones? That's it's already out of the news, I guess. Everyone forgot.
I almost kind of thought that maybe it was some sort of distraction from like actual news. You know how like whenever there's something real and important, they always like to throw something else in there that's going to distract from it. I was kind of almost suspecting that the drones were something like that. Just hey, look at this shiny thing.
Maybe they were. All right. So I think then I can only see the remainder on Rumble. I'll just read these and we'll.
I've got the two from Likes to Watch.
Okay, yeah, if you got those, go ahead and read what you got.
All right, I've got Likes to Watch. Merry Christmas, Matt and chat. I hope you're all able to relax and spend time with loved one. Cheers.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Thank you for tuning in and supporting the show, and Merry Christmas.
Do you have any big Christmas plans? Just spending it with the
family? My closest family, my wife and sons and my parents, and doing stuff with just enjoying my two boys opening presents and doing Christmas stuff like that. So
nice.
What do you got?
I've for plans, gonna be spending Christmas Eve at my parents' house and Christmas Day at my sister's house.
All right.
And I'm actually going to be I premiered a new dessert, if you don't mind me taking a minute to explain. So
better be 1 minute.
It will be. So are you familiar with cookie butter?
Yes, generally, although I'm not a frequent consumer.
Yeah. Okay, it's delicious. And what I do is I take cookie butter and I spread it on cinnamon bread, put some Nutella on that, put another slice of cinnamon bread on, heat it up in a sandwich press, and get the bread nice and crispy. it fuses the cookie butter and the Nutella together. Absolutely delicious.
This is like a dessert grilled cheese or something.
Yes, pushing the bounds of snacking technology.
Great story. Compelling and rich.
Congratulations on your discovery. All right, I got a couple more chats on Rumble. I'll close these out before we let you go. But Hillbilly Deluxe also says, dang, lost some of the message. Moving out of... Oh, that's the one you did have,
That was
right?
the one I hit. Yep.
He also says, it may be inconvenient, but the resulting peace of mind is immeasurable. So he had a correction to the prior
That was
chat.
the one that I skipped because that was included
I
in the
see.
second
Okay,
one.
so
And
we
then
just
he's
had
got
some...
a third one here.
Okay, so maybe we aren't... Maybe I just was confused by what you meant. Because, yeah, it looks like maybe we're in good shape.
That might have been it. And then Hillbilly Deluxe, the dude who wrote that article, let's be clear, that was a facile attempt to inoculate himself against criticism by providing a preemptive mea culpa. We see through this bullshit.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Whenever people come around and it's like, okay, better late than never, you got to the right idea, I'll give you a break. Man, that's a tough one, though. It's like, really? You just now realized, now that Biden's on the way out, now we're... 6 months away from the debate even, and suddenly like, oh, I guess I should have talked about that. I guess I should have been more serious about that. Anyway.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of the first term that Trump got elected. I remember Cenk Uygur putting out a video trying to make it look like he was being fair, like, oh, Trump already did this thing that's going to be great, just so like as if like that wasn't transparently like, oh, we're going to report fairly, and then 4 years of absolutely not.
Yeah. I don't have my... I wasn't prepared over on Odyssey. You know what? Odyssey, I'm going to come back to you. My apologies to make you wait, but I will come back to you at the end of the show. And among the many things I didn't prepare, I didn't open DLive either, but DLive is not super active these days, and it looks like we got nothing over there anyway, which is kind of the norm. DLive, I don't know. DLive might be on the way out. Why am I wasting my time over there? I don't know, but that's for another day to decide. Anyway, Merry Christmas, sir.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
And I would say Happy New Year, but I guess I assume maybe I'll see you on Sunday. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to. And also, if I can make a quick comment on your Wednesday video that you put out, that Derek Chauvin, they're going to let him re-examine Floyd's heart.
Yes.
Now they're not going to let him actually do it himself, are they?
Well, his legal team.
Oh, okay.
But maybe
I was going to say, if they actually let him do it, that the first thing that he's going to do when he gets his hands on it is probably kneel on it.
Get the hell out of here. All right, I'll be right back. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next week. And I'll be right back, everybody.
All right, thank you, sir. Have a Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Sorry, I had to take an unprofessional bathroom break
But I got to get into this Kay Granger story down in Texas. Again, it's not just Joe Biden who's disappearing off the job. Apparently, a member of Congress disappeared off the job for months, and nobody really noticed until one curious reporter actually dug into it. Kay Granger, supposedly a Republican member of Congress, supposedly representing a district in the Dallas area. And she's been in Congress for almost 30 years, since 1997. She was the chair of the Appropriations Committee until April. She resigned from that post. And she has been outright missing from Congress since July. A lot of headlines say she was missing. It's not like she was a missing person, per se. Like, it's not, her family wasn't searching for her, unable to find her, but she was MIA from Congress. And she last voted in July. So 5 months later, this reporter at the Dallas Express gets curious. Where the hell is this lady? She's supposed to be representing this district, and nobody's seen her in a long time. And I know that she's not the chairwoman of the Appropriations Committee anymore, but, while Congress is working on financial things this week, budgeting things, appropriations, why isn't she there? Seems like they could use her know-how. So he starts calling her offices, DC and Dallas. Nobody answers, just voicemail. Can't even talk to anybody there, not even the intern. And then the reporter goes down to the office in person in the Dallas area. The door was locked. The glass is all covered up. Nobody there. He asks someone else who is in this office building where Kay Granger's office is, what's the deal with this congressional office? And the people tell him, I don't know. They packed up and they left before Thanksgiving. There's nobody even in there. Now, Kay Granger did not run for re-election. She's going to be out of Congress in a week or two's time here. She had planned on leaving in January. That was already known. But what's she doing not finishing out her term if that's what she's supposed to be doing? So the reporter continues working the story. He gets a tip from a constituent that she's actually living at a local memory care facility. And somehow this reporter found out which facility. And he spoke with the assistant executive director of this nursing home, and he told the reporter, yeah, Kay Granger does in fact live here. This is her home. But no, we're not going to let you talk to her about what's going on in Congress. So to summarize, this woman has been completely incapacitated since July, probably earlier, but at least that long, hasn't done any work, still getting paid. Still getting a budget from Congress for this operation that doesn't exist. Staff still getting paid, even though the public has no access to her staff, the Congresswoman, representation to which they are entitled, none of it. And they're still giving the impression, by the way, that she is a Congresswoman all the while. Because her X account, Kay Granger's X account, was still fairly active. She had just posted, within the last couple days, appreciation post for her interns. Now, of course, interns post a lot of social media content for members of Congress or other public people. That's not necessarily unusual. But in this case, that these interns are posting this material as though the Congresswoman is still a Congresswoman and not living at a nursing home. And this account, if you look at it, it was fairly active, her X account, going back all the months during which she's just been MIA, posting a lot of generic things like happy this holiday, happy that holiday. Oh, there's this thing going on. Look at this person from my district who did a notable thing. So they're giving the impression that she's still an active member of Congress when she's totally out of her mind in a nursing home in Texas and has been for months. Through this charade, of course, citizens in Texas's 12th district, they had no actual representation in Congress. It's been the case for months this way. Even though the social media account, the interns, the rest of the staff, they're giving the impression that the representation exists. And of course, there's some payment happening for this. Public money being exchanged. Now, this is not just some crackpot reporting, unverified conspiracy theory, whatever. It is confirmed by her office and her family, at least substantially. There are a few nitpicky points. But over the weekend, Kay's son, Brandon Granger, said to the Dallas Morning News, it's been a hard year. and confirmed that Kay is living at Tradition Senior Living in Fort Worth, citing dementia issues. Now, the family and her office is saying, well, it's not memory care. That's wrong in the report. It's not memory care. So I guess it's just a regular old nursing home. But notably, as described in this Politico article, the family and her office did not deny other elements of the Dallas Express article, as in, she's supposed to be in Congress, she's not, and she lives in an old people home. That's what really matters. What specific type of old people home, not really the point. Now, Granger's office released a statement, again, as though she's writing it. Everyone knows she's not. I am deeply grateful for the outpouring of care and concern over the past several days. She's not receiving an outpouring of care and concern. She's receiving an outpouring of criticism, rightfully so. As many of my family, friends, and colleagues have known, I have been navigating some unforeseen health challenges over the past year. However, since early September, my health challenges have progressed, making frequent travel to Washington both difficult and unpredictable. During this time, my staff has remained steadfast, continuing to deliver exceptional constituent services as they have for the past 27 years. Except you can't go visit them. You can't call them. I assume you can't email them. Maybe you can reply on X. Maybe they'll get in touch with you that way. None of that is true. The office was shut down. You can go watch the video of it in the reporting. And it obviously raises the question, why didn't you announce this when it happened? Because if she goes into this nursing home in September, seems like September would have been a good time for this statement. Plus, it isn't even the biggest problem. As Congressman Thomas Massey says on X, well, I'm actually more concerned about the congressmen who have dementia and are still voting right now. Fair point on that. If you know, and this is not just her or her family, this is everybody involved at that office. If you know this is the case, that the congresswoman is living in a nursing home in Texas and has been for months, you must reveal it, just like Joe Biden. How many people were in on this? Again, this actual conspiracy, an agreement among people to cover up the truth at the expense of the public. We should ask questions of the family who clearly covered this up. Obviously, we need to ask questions of the staff. You can't ask questions of the congresswoman because she's mentally incapacitated. But her staff members have known about this for months. They've collected a check for months. This is not just a conspiracy. This is massive corruption. If you know that this congresswoman is not working and you're collecting money on the premise that she is, and you're not telling the public about that, you're a crook. Oh, but my job depends on it. Yeah, well, okay. If your job depends on fraud or lying or a cover-up, you should stop doing that job. That's true whether you work for the government, whether you work for a small business, big business, whatever. If those are the terms of your job, get out of that job. We'll see how this develops throughout the... well, I guess that's probably about it. She's out of Congress. That's it. Someone new is going to take that seat, and we're just going to move on like this wasn't a massive scandal. Anyway, also this week, early on, it looked like another Religion of Peace Christmas car attack in Germany. And it might be. It may be. Who knows? The official story is a total reversal, though. This could be a twist written by M. Night Shyamalan, because supposedly it is the opposite of what we're used to. Instead, a Saudi guy drove through a German crowd because he hates Muslims, actually. That's why. This was in Magdeburg. This is a city of 250,000 people in central Germany. A driver drove a car about a quarter mile through a Christmas market on the street, killed 5 people, injured over 200. One of those dead is a 9-year-old boy. There were 4 other adult women killed. Driver was arrested at the scene. Of course, immediately we got the car attack narrative. I don't even know why he was arrested, actually. He didn't do it. It was the car that did it. The headlines come out right on cue. They're doing the meme. The Guardian, NBC, ABC, BBC, the New York Times, CNN, AP, and more. They all published headlines with some variation of a car drove through a crowd. So the car of peace strikes again. Or except for maybe this guy hated the cars of peace, so he drove a car of peace. I don't know. It's all very confusing. But the in defense of these headlines, well, it's not a good defense, but German police, whatever, they have their privacy laws. They're not supposed to name suspects in full. So I get it. If you're relying on them as a reporter, maybe you can't. Maybe it makes your headline weird because it's like man who does this or unidentified guy officially. There's no reason to take the extra step and say the car did it. But I guess what I'm saying is I get why the name isn't out there immediately because of German police policy. But the guy is identified now. I don't think this is through the German police, but through other means. His name is Taleb al-Abdul Taleb A is what they're calling him. Abdul something, whatever. Abdul Muhammad Durka, whatever. That's his name. He's 50 years old and he is Saudi and he's lived in Germany for almost 2 decades. Now he's got some sort of asylum in Germany. I've seen different years. Some sources are saying he had asylum since 2016. I've also seen reporting here that says he's been there for almost 20 years. I don't know if he was there on a different legal term for say 10 years until 2016. Then his legal status changed. And that's why I don't know. He's been there for a long time. He's Saudi. He's anti-Muslim. He's atheist. He's in Germany because he was oppressed. He was persecuted in Saudi Arabia for his atheism and his hatred of Islam is the idea. And investigators, according to reporting, they're looking into the suspect's grievances against the German government over treatment of these asylum seekers. So his motive, as understood, is sort of twofold. That's one prong. I'll get to the other in a moment. But this guy, Taleb, the suspect, he was actually featured in a BBC story in 2019 for his efforts to bring in non-Muslim Arabs into Germany to get asylum from their oppression from their governments as well. So it's not just that he got asylum this way. It's that he was actively recruiting, facilitating people from the Muslim world to come and live in Germany like he is doing.
Hi, my name is Taleb. I'm from Saudi Arabia. I'm an activist. I created a website to help people seeking asylum, especially from Saudi Arabia and the Gulf region. I use basically WhatsApp, Twitter, Telegram. If I have time, I spend, totally helping Saudi asylum seekers between 10 to 16 hours a day, if I have time. The only Arab country from which I did not have an ex-Muslim seeking help until now from me is Oman.
Okay, there's also information based on posts recovered from his social media that has since been deleted, apparently, or taken down. But some of that has been recovered. This is from Anna Slatz. And in his social media, there's a lot of stuff about how anti-Islam he is, how anti-Muslim he is. So the motive, in theory, isn't just that he was mad at Germany for their mistreatment of potential asylum seekers, refugees, whatever, coming from the Arab world. According to these posts and this theory, the guy was actually mad at Germany for being too pro-Muslim. And it's not just, speculation based on that post. That's something that's reported elsewhere, including in the CNN report here. A since deleted X feed linked to the suspect. A since deleted X feed linked to the suspect showed he had in the past shared anti-Islam statements and accused Germany of promoting the Islamization of the country. So that's the plot twist that I'm talking about. Saudi guy hates Islam so much that he commits what was assumed to have been an Islamic terror attack, but it's not. It's actually, and I hate Islam so much, I'm committing the same type of attack, I guess. Now, who knows if that's accurate, though? German police, again, they're still not officially identifying the guy, or if they did, only very recently. Who knows what actually happened here? Just like 2016, though. If you're thinking of going to a Christmas market in Germany, it's a dangerous game. Look over your shoulder, think twice. I don't know. I mean, I have conflicting thoughts on all of this stuff. Like, there are a lot of dangerous elements in that. We've seen these sorts of truck attacks at markets like this frequently. On the one hand, you got to be wary of that sort of thing, and I'd keep my head on a swivel if I was at such an event. On the other hand, if you allow this stuff to stop you from participating in public events in which you normally otherwise would, haven't you allowed this sort of terrorism to take control of your life? One way or another, this is going to get solved. There aren't a lot of easy, clean solutions to this. And I know Germany has had some experience with those particular conflicts in the past. So we'll see how this goes going forward. But that brings us to Hoax Hate.
And now, the nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America Hoax Hate Crime of the Week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
At Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee, earlier this month, papers with racial slurs written on them were discovered at this particular area on campus, the National Pan-Hellenic Council Plaza. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but a particular area on campus. There were all these sheets of paper, and according to people who discovered them, they were vulgar. They said things like FN words and Trump rules. Okay. And students staged a sit-in to protest this toxic racist environment on campus. Well, investigators looked into it, and they found the guy who did it, and it turns out it was all fake.
Rhodes College says the person who left racist messages on campus has now admitted to leaving those messages. They were discovered earlier this month near the National Pan-Hellenic Council Plaza, which is the only space on campus that pays tribute to the historically black sororities and fraternities at Rhodes. The signs led to a silent protest last week there in the library. In a statement, Rhodes says the perpetrator reported the act with the intention of placing the blame on someone else. That person has since taken responsibility for the message. This matter has caused enormous pain to our community, and we are taking appropriate steps to hold this individual accountable, including all legal avenues that may be available to us. That a statement from Rhodes College tonight.
Apparently, Rhodes College brought in the Memphis Police Department to investigate as well. So we have pieces of paper with scary words written on them. That's a matter for police to pay attention to. As far as I've seen in the reporting, the person responsible has not been named. But it must be pretty bad if the school is actually considering legal action, as they say they are. I don't know if that would be criminal charges. I don't know if that would be some sort of civil suit for wasting their time and money, Jussie Smollett style. Maybe they want to recover some of the money they spent investigating this. We'll see if they're serious and they actually follow through. Also, it looks like those fraudulent relations inherent to transgender dating have potentially struck again.
That's disgusting.
Now, remember, whenever the people discuss the supposed transgender genocide, transgender people are murdered so much more frequently than the general population on account of being transgender and all the hate. It's not true statistically, but even in cases where it appears to be true, it's much more complicated. In the murders that actually are murders and aren't mischaracterized, very commonly these are they're dating and hookup relationships, as we've discussed on this show many times. Man meets up with who he thinks is a woman on a dating app. Things happen. Man discovers it's another man, and man kills that man because.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
So in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Cameron Jamal McKees? Okay. MIIKQ McKees, whatever. Cameron Jamal McKees Thompson was an 18-year-old transgender person, as in a young man presenting as a young woman. This was a young woman named Jamal, apparently. A juvenile suspect has been arrested for murdering him this week. Thompson lived with his mom and 16-year-old brother. Thompson left the house around 1 a.m. on Monday, December 16th. He did not return home. When family noticed he was missing the next day, they called police, who had actually already discovered the body a few hours prior. He was shot several times. Now, the family is calling this a hate crime, but the details about the relationship described by the family suggest otherwise. The suspect is not named on account of being a minor, but a family member says, this transgender person's aunt says, definitely we believe that because of the dynamic of the relationship, this Jamal, the young lady, was trying to break it off with someone, and maybe that person did not want to know his sexual orientation or what he was doing. Well, okay. What are we saying then? That's not a hate crime as in someone sees transgender person, doesn't like them on account of being transgender and attacks them. There was some kind of existing relationship. This guy clearly did not kill Jamal, the stunning and brave, beautiful young woman, because he was trans. They had some interaction between them. They had some existing friendship or romance gone wrong or whatever it was, but something personal that explains the killing. Now, presumably some sort of deception, maybe a threat to reveal what was a secret, whatever. Point is, that's not a hate crime. That's a personal dispute. And, all jokes aside, this is, you want to talk about like the danger of anti-trans bigotry being a danger to your kids, whatever. No, this is the sort of stuff that is very dangerous for young people, convincing them to accept this lie, going out in the world to propagate the lie, and expecting that the world is not going to punish them severely for putting a lie out there everywhere and trying to live a lie. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that murder is justified. Although we did see that case in Virginia a few years ago where that football player had a fraudulent relationship this way, ended up beating the transgender person to death and was acquitted for some sort of self-defense reason. But the point is, if you raise your kids to go out and live this lie and push this lie on others, the lie will catch up to them. It's going to create confusing, awful, dangerous situations. And even though obviously I have a lot of criticism with this ideology, you sympathize with any family that loses a young member of the family in this way, but you can't be raising your kids to live this delusion. The consequences will be severe. And unfortunately, it looks like they were in this case. Otherwise, I don't have a good transition between transgender murder and George Santos. I got nothing. But did former Congressman George Santos fake a milkshake attack against himself in Times Square? Now, it is staged, that much we know. But the question is why? Earlier in the week, footage circulated of supposedly a random guy recognizing former Congressman George Santos just walking around Times Square. And he was so enraged by this George Santos sighting that he threw a milkshake at him. And George Santos was outraged in response.
This guy's got audacity to show his face.
Hey, George Santos, eh?
Oh,
hey?
what's up?
How do you like that? How do you like that, George? Yeah. Enjoy, man. Enjoy, George.
You're unbelievable. Unfucking believable. That's what you are. Unfucking Oh, is that over here?
I bet you like that, George.
I mean, we can find a spot sit here.
You got us, we got you, George.
Now that clip got a lot of attention online. And George Santos then posted a follow-up video explaining actually that's not real. He says it was filmed intentionally to promote his new podcast, but they never released it officially because it seemed insensitive considering the Luigi United Healthcare CEO assassination in New York right around the same time. Now, somehow the video leaked anyway. Doesn't sound like George Santos is completely sure how that happened, but it got out and people posted it and they were talking about it. So then he releases a video explaining that it's not real.
Today, a video has been circulating of what may look like an assault. I just want to clear it out. It was not. Now, the video was recorded a couple of months ago in anticipation for a very long projected promo campaign that was going to be part of a multi-video situation for the launch of the podcast Pants on Fire with George Santos. But we decided not to take that approach, myself and the production crew, because we felt that in light of what had happened in New York City, it would be, you know, let's just say, I'm trying to find the words, insensitive. It was tone deaf. And we said, you know what? No, we'll just launch it like here's a podcast, we're doing the party. Laugh at it. It's funny, but I don't want there to be a misconstruction that there is aggression of political nature, of divisive nature. Gentleman in the video is a friend and a good guy, and he was actually uncomfortable even having to do it. So I just wanted to say sorry.
Misconstrusion is a great word. Good made up word anyway. I'll remember that one. But the question is, what was the intent behind this production? Was George Santos going to release that video as though it was real? Or was it just a bit? It was always supposed to be a bit. It was going to be a joke. It was knowingly fake. The world may never know. But I guess we'll have to be skeptical watching or listening to any of the bits on George Santos's podcast. It's called Pants on Fire with George Santos. So I guess potentially self-aware because he lies a lot and he is a literal flamer.
Many of those people probably have AIDS.
I don't know if anybody's listening to the Pants on Fire podcast with George Santos, but it sounds like it had a little bit of a rocky launch. And lastly, for the evening, I mentioned at the top of the show, I always love when people do the meme. We saw that tonight with the car drives into crowd meme. Politico, back last month when Joe Biden pardoned Hunter, they did the meme with Republicans pounce. Joe Biden pardons Hunter, Republicans pounce. And this week, Netflix kind of did the meme. Now, the Netflix meme is what? It is forcibly diversifying anything and everything, specifically by making non-black characters black. And that's been extended to all sorts of other productions. We see a lot of that going on, but Netflix has always been a pioneer in that. And to be fair, in this context, that's not exactly what's happening here. More precisely speaking, this is overemphasizing black characters in a particular historical context, but the cringe still applies. And in particular, we're talking about black women here. So this week, Netflix released The 6888, which is a dramatized depiction of an all-black female army unit in World War II, deployed to Europe to handle mail shipment and delivery, as in they're operating a postal service. And because Netflix is so iron-fisted with their copyright, I can't even play the trailer with like a blurred image. I had to actually distort it further than that to avoid their copyright wrath and the wrath of Raja Mahan. So the video here is going to be unviewable for you, but that's okay because what's really important is what they're saying. Here's a portion of the trailer.
Din Charity Adams, welcome to the Women's Army Corps.
My wife and I have been talking about the problems we are having with the male and our soldiers' morale.
Even tried the Women's Army Corps. You mean the White Women's Army Corps? Well, is there another?
Adams, you and the 6888 Battalion are headed to Europe.
Postal Battalion?
They think the only thing we good for is deliver some damn mail.
When there is no mail, there is low morale.
6888 Battalion! Forward march!
They did not send us because they thought we could do it. We are here because they are sure we cannot. We are no strangers to making a shack a home. Unlike some other folks here, we have the most to prove. Now is where you show the proof. This is our mission.
Okay. So they know it's a very important mission, but it's also very beneath them as stunning and brave black queens. And they know the real struggle, unlike those, white privileged men getting chewed up on the beaches by the German machine guns and those guys dropping behind enemy lines by parachute. The mail delivery is the true heroism of World War II. Because, of course, how could they storm those beaches? How could they jump out of those planes if they didn't receive the letters delivered by black women? And, of course, only black chicks could have done it. The thing is, I'm not actually trying to diminish it. I don't doubt the premise that mail in World War II or in the modern warfare context is of substantial value for morale for those troops. I'm sure that is true. I'm sure it is valuable to get mail to them. What I dispute here is that that it had to be like this racial event in this way. Like, the only Rosie the Riveter and the celebration of women in that context of World War II, that didn't count because she's not black. It's really black chicks who stopped Hitler indirectly because they got the mail there on time. If you want to tell the story, just tell the story. But they have to do it in a way that diminishes others or exaggerates contributions on racial lines. Why? Well, because diminishing other people along racial lines is the point. For as much as these people claim to hate racism, yes, we have to make it a unique racial achievement that mail was delivered in World War II. Otherwise, the whole thing was over. And Hitler would have won, and we'd all be speaking German. It'd be a disaster. Now, will I actually watch this? Because, of course, I have a big appetite for cringe. I'm a cringe connoisseur. I think I may have met my match on this one. I love limited doses of cringe, but I don't know how long this is, like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm not watching that. We'll see if Netflix makes the money they expect on this particular production. But that will do it for the evening. I will catch up with your super chats here, and we'll call it a night. Where did I leave off? Let's see. Purpose of the Ages. Well, okay, we're going to Tortuga. Purpose of the Ages. I'd like to think many of us in the audience have similar experiences: seeking God, growing families, starting businesses, loving our communities, and watching ML Christiansen plow a similar path. Well, it's great to be on the path with you, man. Of course, we're all kind of on or a lot of us are on a similar trajectory, and I really appreciate that you've been able to find something of value in the show while on that path. And thanks for encouraging others on that path too. Also says, I cannot send $10 super chats. I keep thinking a friend is going to see me being gay. Thank you for getting around Rajuhan gay for all this attention and saying, look at, they're going to say,
Look at this fat.
yeah, you're going to hear it repeating in your mind, of course.
Look at this fat.
Merry Christmas, brother. God bless you and your family and this audience. Well, Merry Christmas to you as well. Rod Bischoff says, wow, that's, dude, you're just being an absolute dick to Batman. So
I'd like to say fuck you.
if you want your super chat back, I'd gladly send it. I don't know why you're being such a douchebag about it, but okay, good for you. Merry Christmas. Seagram's Gin, they're all talking about questioning a president in decline. So when they come out at every presser to push about Trump, they'll say they are doing their due diligence. It was always projection. Wait and see. Maybe, is it all just set up? I don't know. I think it's just people follow orders, and for whatever reason the orders have changed. I guess those aren't mutually exclusive. Seagram's Jen. Maybe the orders have changed for the reason you're describing. That is certainly possible. All right. I got to refresh here. Okay. Ken Rose, thanks for supporting the show. Issue, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
I was listening to a Wednesday night stream and the topic came up of the movie review. You mentioned that having the other person there was part of the segment. The thought I had was doing it monthly with the movie recommender on the show. As always, I'm glad that you appreciated the segment. I appreciate enthusiasm for it. I really do. Number one, organizing people in that way, logistically very difficult. And I talk about the time that the time it requires me to do the movie reviews with the level of attention that I think is necessary. Again, it's a multi-hour commitment a week. I'm not sure it's the best use of my time currently, though maybe in the future it could come back. But if you're talking about bringing in someone, we don't know what that person's schedule is. Maybe I have to record it at a different time. We also don't know what that person's technical setup is. We don't know if they're comfortable being on air in that way. Because for some people, it may seem easy. And for some people, maybe it is. But for a lot of people, they might enjoy submitting a movie for review. They would definitely not enjoy being on air on the spot talking about that movie and going back and forth. I think that would be a very difficult thing to pull off well. So the movie reviews will stay shelved for the moment. But again, I'm not saying never. I'm just saying for now, they will be retired. But like Brett Favre, they might come back 50 times, even though nobody wants them to come back anymore. Thank you, Issue, and Merry Christmas. Justin Brush, thank you, Alan, as well. Justin Brush, probably not the first time you've heard this groaner, but I'll do it anyway. Mary Christiansen, Matt Christmas. Okay. That is actually the first time I've heard that groaner.
Look at this fat.
Mary Christiansen, Matt Christmas. I've never heard that one before. Matt Grendel. Merry Christmas to you, the minus and the little ones. The misses. It's that time of night. You know, I'm like Joe Biden. I can't read anymore. Merry Christmas to you, the misses and the little ones, Matthew, and Merry Christmas to this excellent chat. Here's to an excellent 2025. Well, thank you, Matt Grendel.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
All the best to you and your family as well. Very much appreciate your support for the show. All right. Let's refresh. Looks good. Oh my gosh, I'm way late to get to Odyssey. My apology on that over on Odyssey, you guys. Let me check in with what you guys are saying. Fantastic AI artwork as well. Blanket says, Matt, what are your favorite Christmas foods? As always, doesn't matter. Thanksgiving, Christmas, my mom's mashed potatoes. Okay, nothing can beat it. I think my sources say we're going to do steak and potatoes for Christmas dinner this year, and I look forward to that. Blankets also says, Matt, did you get any video games with the video game systems you got for Christmas? Do you mean like back in the day? Are we talking like the original Xbox? Because I think I had mentioned that in some discussion. Yeah, like the biggest gifts for me, the most exciting gifts when I was young were the video game consoles, and specifically when my brother and I got the original Xbox when it launched in 2001. And I believe we got Halo and Amped Snowboarding, and I think I got Madden, whatever it was, like 2002. I think those were the 3 games that I had on the original Xbox when it came out, and that was pretty awesome. Let's see. Less than Satchel Page, thanks for using alternative platforms, Matt. Well, my pleasure. Thanks for enjoying them. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family. Always seek Kyle. Well, I haven't seen Kyle for a while, but I guess I'll have to keep looking.
Kyle Hitler, baby.
Blanket says, hope you have a Merry Christmas, Matt. Merry Christmas to you as well. Much appreciated. All right. I think we're set on DLive. I think we're set on Rumble. Yeah, we're good on Rumble. Let me refresh over on YouTube and Tippy. I think we're all set. So, hey, appreciate everybody tuning in this evening. As always, appreciate you live chatters. Appreciate you super chatters. Thanks for making the live production a success, or at least as good as it possibly can be. Thanks to Batman for stopping in. Congratulations to his family as well. Thanks to Knuckle Hunky Buck for his super chat assistance. And of course, thanks to producer Tim for his help for the evening as well. If you'd like to find more to listen to over the Christmas break here, check out the podcast page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/podcast. Got not just the video show, but the audio feed if you prefer audio podcast listening. Anything else show related, mattchristiansenmedia.com is where you find it, or matties.gay if you prefer brevity. But most importantly, Merry Christmas to you and yours, and I hope to see you back here on Sunday.